Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now. Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint 2020. It's race number 5 at Keeneland on Saturday. Let's throw up the field. Big field, competitive race. Your morning line favorite is the classy Got Stormy, but she's a tepid morning line favorite at 7-2. Wide open affair, Mike.
Yeah, I don't see how anybody could be too short a price in here, Dan. This is a wide open race. It feels like they're a pretty well matched group, and maybe more than any other Breeders' Cup race, trips are just going to be very important in this race.
Speed down towards the inside as we take a look at the time form US pace projector. Big Runuer has been very, very impressive since trainer Victor Garcia added blinkers. He's a versatile type, but from the inside, you got to figure he's going to go. Just Might's been in pretty decent form in his last few races. He's likely to make the lead. And I'm not kind of sure what Texas Wedge's form is, but with blinkers on, I guess he can get to the front. I'm interested to see what Wet Your Whistle does early because he showed speed last time out. That pace wasn't very fast.
Yeah, that's true. He did get to the front. I would be surprised if he was able to make an impression early in this race. We'll see what happens. It did feel like the pace probably came down to the two inside horses, Dan. We'll see if either one of them is good enough to take advantage.
Let's talk about Big Runuer, who is a lightly raced 5-year-old. He's only made it to the post 7 times, but when he's right, he runs, as he did in the Eddie D last time out, going 5.5 furlongs. His graded stakes debut, he took no prisoners. From the outside post, Juan Hernandez put him right on the engine, and he cooked up front, and he kept on going, and he's able to handle Wildman Jack, who we see rally up for second. Another good performance for Big Runuer, who again has that tactical speed in the inside post.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly in very good form right now, and he's run well in all 3 of his most recent races. Worth noting that in the last 2, he just got absolutely loose on the lead. So I don't know if that's going to happen in here, Dan, but if it does, I suppose it makes him a player because it feels like he still has more upside.
I think that's got to be the plan. Just Might's a really nice horse. He might be a notch or 2 below Breeders' Cup class. His most recent win came in the Colonel Power at the Fairgrounds, a race in which he was 20-1, and he got to an easy lead, and he was able to hold on. And since then, he's run some nice races. But if I'm on Big Runuer, I'm saying I'd like to give Just Might a shot early.
Yeah, I agree with that. If I was riding the one, I would just send. But you know what? Just Might will probably send too. It feels like that's his only chance in here is to try to make the lead. I don't know if he's fast enough to get there, Dan. And even if he is, I just didn't think he was good enough to really beat this field.
I thought he ran just fine last time out in the Woodford. He had a good trip on the lead. He just wasn't as good as Leinster or Extravagant Kid on that day, but he could be close to the pace and should be there when the real running begins. Imprimis, we know, is capable of running extremely fast races. He likes Keeneland, and I think it was a little surprising that he was able to stretch his speed to a demanding 3/4 of a mile over soft ground in this race at Kentucky Downs, their turf sprint. This 6 furlongs plays longer. Imprimis is more of a true turf sprinter. He was around and behind horses turning into this long straight. He swung around them all, and he's going to come with a good run to defeat Front Run the Fed and Bombard, who dead heat for second. I thought this was a very game performance on testing ground in only his second start of the year.
Yeah, he ran well here. You're right that, maybe the 6 furlongs could have been tough for him in soft ground. You never know. He ran well to get it done in there. Personally, and this is just maybe a little bit of nitpicking, I didn't think he ran the best race there, but he still managed to get it done. And listen, Dan, I'm also just going to say that I respect the fact that he's come back off the long layoff and has shown that he can still run. I didn't necessarily love his Troy either. That was a very weak field. The figures say he's every bit as good as he used to be. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, and he's going to be one of the favorites in here.
Trainer Joe Orsino seems a little bit concerned about this post position, and I can understand because he's down towards the inside, and while he's not a slowpoke by any means, it's not like he's a true speed horse, and I guess there's a chance he could be bottled up. He could be one of those horses that, as you mentioned in the open, needs a trip.
Yeah, trip's very important. I think he is definitely going to need one. Listen, his best race makes him very, very tough in here, but I thought that there were some reasons at least to be skeptical of him as one of the favorites.
Chad Brown, I think, has always liked Front Run the Fed. You and I have always liked Front Run the Fed. The problem is Front Run the Fed doesn't seem to like racing that much. This is only going to be his 11th start. We saw his most recent effort at Kentucky Downs. That was a good effort. A dead heat with Bombard, a 101 buyer. To me, Mike, this colt just seems to be coming into his own at the right time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sort of feel like coming out of that Kentucky Downs race that this horse ran the best race that day, even though he was only dead heating for second in there. I mean, he was off the pace early, and for whatever reason, and maybe it was the right move, Dan, but Javier Castellano did not want to sit with this horse. He took him to the outside. He ran right by Imprimis around the turn. There was still a long way to go in that race. He ran past Imprimis and was trying to drive that race down all through the stretch before he got out finished. I thought he ran well. I guess the biggest question I have with Front Run the Fed is 5.5 furlongs what he really wants. You know, he sort of feels like more of a 6 or 7 furlong horse to me. But boy, he's in really good form right now. I think he's a player in here at a fair price.
Wet Your Whistle, the number 5, has Jose Ortiz back aboard after this gate-to-wire score in the Belmont Turf Sprint. Very surprising that Wet Your Whistle was able to get to the lead. Then again, we see a riderless horse challenging him for it. Wet Your Whistle wins with a 100 buyer speed figure. He's always shown a lot of ability. He won the Highlander Stakes at Woodbine in 2019 after breaking slow and swinging widest. He won that Carl Boys at Presque Isle Downs as much the best. He must have missed the break by 3 lengths, ran up onto heels at the quarter pole, and then once he split horses, he was on his way. I guess that Laurel Dash was just a situation where he didn't break and he didn't like a wet track, and that's the key for him. He's got to get out of the gate. Occasionally, he does not break well.
Yeah, that's true. The break could be very important for him. I really feel like, and I'm not going to knock him for his last race. He got a triple-digit buyer and 1 clear. But the story of that race really was that loose horse, Dan, that you saw in the replay, because Wet Your Whistle was not making the early lead in there, but that loose horse sort of took care of the 2 horses that were showing speed to the outside. And this horse just sort of found himself on the lead and went on with it. That being said, you're correct to point out that early on last year, it looked like this horse was going to be a major turf sprinter. He ran 3 big races in a row, and he does not need the lead to be effective. I thought he was interested in this race.
When we think of European invaders in the Breeders' Cup, we often think of the longer distance turf runners. I don't think their turf sprinters are as good as ours, but the 6 Glass Slippers comes in with legitimate credentials. This is a multiple Group 1 winner that just missed last time out in this race, the Prix de la Baie on October the 4th over heavy ground. We see him on the outside with the big white shadow roll, and this is kind of just a battle of attrition, these final 2.5 furlongs, Mike. She is just going to come up a little bit short at the wire.
She is, and it does look like she's laboring a little bit, Dan, over that heavy ground. I wonder if that's a legit excuse for her, because obviously, just going back to late last year and even a couple of races earlier this year, she's got credentials to be a player in this race. We'll see what kind of trip she can get. It feels like, in a lot of ways, the trip could be more important for her than anybody else in here, because I don't think she wants to get too far outrun by these horses.
It seems like the 7 Leinster never really gets the respect that he deserves. All he does is win, especially at Keeneland going 5.5. I mean, he swept the 2 major races, the spring Shakertown, the fall Woodford. He's going to go for the hat trick in the Breeders' Cup. Let's watch the Woodford. Love the tactical speed he showed in this race. He was able to get right up close to Just Might in the early portion, blows right on by, and there's really never any late bid. Extravagant Kid's going to get up for second, but not threatening Leinster. And Leinster has just come back this year very mature, very tactical, and with this sort of outside middle draw, I think he can work out a trip just off the speeds.
Yeah, and that's his calling card anyway, is that he just has really good tactical speed. He should be up close. Listen, he had all the best of it in the Woodford last time. I mean, there wasn't really that much pace in there. He got a perfect trip. You could see in the replay there that nobody was really closing. So I wasn't, blown away by his win there, but he did what he had to do. I thought he ran better than that when he won the Shakertown back in July. And it just feels like he just makes a ton of sense in this race, Dan. He can get the right trip. He's got plenty of fast figures. He likes this turf course. He likes this distance. I mean, he's a horse to me that I just couldn't leave out.
He's just a beacon of consistency, to be sure. There are some really good fillies in this race. We saw Glass Slipper's effort last time out. Here's Oleksandra. She won the Franklin County at Keeneland going 5.5, so course and distance is no issue. And she beat the boys in the Grade 1 Jaipur last time out. And her calling card is her late kick. Let's watch the Jaipur. She has no early speed, but boy, does she fire, especially if the pace is fast. And the pace was really hot in the Jaipur. You see her in the red and green. She runs them all down.
Yeah, she did have a contested pace in front of her, but this is what she does, whether the pace is super fast or not, Dan. She comes with a hard kick through the stretch. She is going to need the right trip in here. She has Joel Rosario back on. Rosario rides this horse perfect, Dan. He always has her in the right spot, and he always has her within range of these horses for the last quarter mile. He never leaves her too much to do. And he just lets her roll through the stretch. So if she can get a clean trip in this race, I think she could be pretty tough in here. We'll see what happens. It's been a long time since we've seen her. That Jaipur we just watched is her last race, and she has had an issue since then. So she's dealing with some lost time here. But if she comes back ready to run, she could be a handful in here.
Oh, no doubt. She's got a strong kick. But you're right. That race was about 4.5 months ago. And it's not like the Jaipur has come back a very strong race. All of the horses in their next starts were either off the board with subpar Beyer speed figures. And the runner-up, Kanthaka, was coming off of a lengthy layoff. Does that worry you at all?
I'm not going to worry about that because I just feel like if you just take Oleksandra at face value on her credentials, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that she's a contender in here.
Here's another filly in really good form, the number 9, Into Mystic. She just missed last time out to Got Stormy. She got the jump on Got Stormy. She ran really well. She just got steamrolled in the shadow of the wire. But ever since Brendan Walsh has gotten his hands on Into Mystic, it seems like she's gotten in good form. And maybe she's kind of a price horse with tactical speed that can work out the right trip.
I can certainly see looking at her that way. Her last 2 5.5 furlong races are both good, and they're both fast. And she's still lightly raced enough, too, to think we may not have seen her best race yet.
Bombard dead heated for second with Front Run the Fed in the race we saw with Imprimis earlier on. It was his third start off of a lengthy layoff. This is a horse that's had myriad physical problems throughout his career. I thought he ran well that day, Mike, and he's a solid enough turf sprinter. I kind of wonder if 5.5 is a little bit sharp for him. He just seemed like the quintessential down the hill turf horse when he was truly in his prime a few years ago.
That's true. He did run well last time, all things considered, and I suppose he could be part of the pace here, if not right up there on it or contesting it, then sitting up close to it as well. I did think he ran well last time. I thought both Imprimis and Front Run the Fed maybe ran a little better than he did, but this horse will probably be a bigger price than both of them.
The number 11 Wildman Jack had a big start to this year. He won the Nadal Sheba Turf Sprint, 6 furlongs and 7 and change at Maidan, breaking the track record. Came back and won the Daytona at Santa Anita, 5.5 and 101.01, breaking the track record. But since then, he's lost just a little bit of sizzle. His most recent race might indicate a return to form, a race in which Big Runuer got loose early and Wildman Jack had to do a lot of work late, but I wonder if he's in the form he was in over the winter. I need to see that Wildman Jack in order to back him, even at a good price.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. I thought he showed some signs of life last time in a race that it just felt like he was compromised by the way that it was run. And I liked that he was, putting in a pretty good finish through the stretch. So that, gave me a little bit of confidence that maybe he's back in form. I guess the biggest question for me is, what is he going to do now as he ships out of Southern California again? Because when they brought him over to Keeneland for the Shakertown in July, he was a total no-show, and I did not see the excuse for him in that race.
Here's Got Stormy, your morning line favorite, the number 12, second in last year's Breeders' Cup Mile. She turned all the way back to 5.5 in the Franklin County. She's in the pink silks. She's got work to do. Into Mystic strikes the front with 1/8 of a mile to go. Here comes Got Stormy with her class and her determination, and she's just going to get her nose down at the right time. She won this race. Do you still think 5.5 might be a tad short?
I mean, I don't want to take that position anymore. I kind of took that position last time that I just necessarily didn't think she had to win going 5.5. I gotta be honest, Dan. I was pretty taken with that performance from her. That was a very strong finish that she put in. I already know that she's classy enough and talented enough to beat this field on her best day. And, the other thing is, now that second time going 5.5, she doesn't have to be that far back early. I mean, I can see her getting a better trip in this race and being real tough.
And we know she has that tactical speed. She's shown it in middle distance races in the past. Texas Wedge, we saw finish third in the Jaipur video featuring Oleksandra. And I thought he ran pretty well that day. He was up close to that fast pace, made a bid to make the lead in the stretch, and understandably tired. But he was then, like Wildman Jack, a no-show at Keeneland in the Shaker Town. And last time out at Pimlico, I'll give him that race. He didn't need to love the yielding ground.
Yeah, that's true. The layoff in the soft turf probably conspired against him there. He puts blinkers on for this race. He's going to have to rebound. He's going to have to do it against a very good field, but he's held up pretty well in some tough races in the past. So there's a chance that he outruns his odds in this race for sure.
Major respect for the 14 Extravagant Kid. He's been in the exacta 27 of 45 times. We saw him finish second to Leinster last time out. I think he's a little bit better at Churchill Downs than he is at Keeneland, and this is a tough outside post position.
The post didn't do him any favors. I thought he ran fine, all things considered, last time, Dan, because we already talked about, it just didn't feel like a race where he wanted to be closing, and he was trying to close. He actually made up some ground in there. I'm just concerned that it feels like he's lost all of his tactical speed. I mean, he just doesn't get forward in his races anymore. So being post 14 without any speed, I mean, where is he going to be early? It feels like he's going to need everything to break his way. He's good enough to beat this field if it does, though.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. You like Oleksandra. We've always been a fan of her. All she needs is pace. You would think in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, for all this money, there's going to be at least some hitting up front. Take her widest, take her fastest. Maybe she runs the Jaipur.
I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it. I was also sort of swayed by the fact that she's 12-1 on the morning line. I don't know how they'll bet this race, but it feels like she could be a fair price in here. I actually put the two fillies 1-2 her over got Stormy. We'll see how that works out. The lone caveat that I'll throw in there, Dan, is that what I really wanted to do in this race is to pick and to bet the number 16 Chaos Theory, but he's the second also eligible, and it feels like he's not going to get in.
Folks, keep in mind for scratches, Mike Beer will have the 16 Chaos Theory if he draws into the race. I've got Oleksandra in there. I've obviously got Stormy in there. Mike made some good cases, perhaps maybe to go against Imprimis at depressed odds. I just think he's very consistent. He runs his usual fast race and he gets a trip. I think he's going to be right there at the wire. 3-12-9-8 for me, 8-12-7-3 for Mike. It's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. It's race number 5 at Keeneland on Saturday. Good luck. Bet the Breeders' Cup with the DRF app. The Daily Racing Form app is a highly rated, powerful tool that makes handicapping and wagering fast and easy, putting you in position to win big at the races. Register today to double your first deposit up to $250. Get the DRF app now.